Hello and welcome to ThisConnect. And this is the last episode. Where we get in all your questions, your stories, and advice that you want to share with us.
Yeah.
Right. So Shumi selected a whole bunch of.
I think we had about 1,500, 1,600 comments from which we'd selected, I think, the 20 that we wanted to answer. This time we are looking at something like 4,500.
Holy cow.
Out of which me and some people in the office, we sat together.
Yeah, we had a quick scan through some of the questions, and I mean, 1.5 hour, which sounds like a stretch, will not be enough to cover in maybe 10 of them.
I know.
Some of them
I mean,
are awesome.
if we were to be here all night, then maybe by tomorrow lunchish, we'll be able to finish all the questions. And I'm not even saying that they're repeated. I'm saying there's different perspectives on everything.
Yeah.
And some of the recurring themes are how do you grow your skill? You'll see a lot of that, which is excellent. This is a great way to think. Some of the questions are about how do you recover post or traumatic injury or accident, which is also a powerful subject to deal with, and maybe we should deal with on its own at some point anyway. And there's a whole bunch of questions about us and MotorInc. And we'll see how many of these that we want to put in this, because honestly, there's a lot more things to talk about than just us.
Let's get down to it then.
Let's get down to this. I'm selecting the first question at random just as a kickoff. This is from Afif Dadan on YouTube. I end up spending a lot of money on the car as opposed to myself, while making sure it doesn't exceed the norm of how one's expenses should be. Okay. Being an enthusiast, it doesn't bother me that my car expenses are more than 10% of my income, as long as I cover it with my personal expenses as per my budget. What are your thoughts on this from a financial perspective?
Excellent, man. I think he's nailing the formula.
Yeah?
And I
think he's not.
No?
No.
I think 10% is low. What I thought, like 10% is on the lower side. But if he's being able to do that comfortably, and if he feels that he's taking all the care that he needs to for the car,
I think you should be spending more.
I knew what it was. Only 10%.
Only 10%? I mean, come on.
The rule is that of what you're earning, 30% goes to savings, 30% goes towards your house rental or house loan or whatever, and the remaining is for you to live your life. So obviously 30% can be done, right?
I think this whole financial thing where they say that vehicles being depreciating assets, you have to spend minimum amount of money on them. This is based on the idea that, look, you need to prioritize tomorrow's savings over living today. And I honestly cannot buy into that perspective. I just cannot. To me, to live a good life, you have to do the stuff you enjoy. And that takes priority over what happens tomorrow as a fear thing that has to happen. So I see all the financial advice about how 30% of your incomes must be saved. And I see the logic of it, and I'm not disputing that. But if it takes away from the quality of life today, I don't know that it's worth it. I don't know that I would do it. I don't know if that number needs to be 30 or 20 or 10 or 15. But to me, I must be happy to do the things I do today. And if that means instead of this 10%, it becomes 15%, 15%.
That's a very...
Yes, say it.
Man living on his own terms advice. So those of you with families and kids, there's that little caveat thrown in there. So do as you see fit. And I think if you are happy with how you're being able to keep up your vehicle, I think that is awesome. That you have a formula that's working for you is great. And bringing in that mindset that you are doing it with the money that is marked out for this, so that you're managing everything else. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Really
the only thing I would add to that, seriously, apart from all the jokes about me being on my own so I can do what I want with my money, is remember that it may not always be easy, and that's okay. You will have to give up some stuff to be able to do other stuff. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I don't do a lot of stuff people my age or my demographic profile would do, because I choose to spend that time and money acquiring motorcycles that I'd love to ride, acquiring gear that I'd like to own, etc. These are my aspirations, so I don't do those things. So do I have a really fancy music system? All of my classmates do. I don't. I bought something decent enough many years ago knowing it would last me forever. Have I ever spent any more money on those things? No. Where has that extra money that I saved there gone into all of this? Yes, but yeah, I do have the latitude of I am the only one I have to take account of. So.
I made fun of him. Now I'm feeling bad. But he's also front loaded some of the big things in life that would be expenses early at the right stage. So, which is why now he has the latitude to do all the things that he wants to do. So, that was well played by him as well.
No, in fact, I'll give you a good example of this, okay? Aarti has a really close friend. She got married at like 18 and a half, husbands in the forces, and they decided to have their child literally immediately. So she got married, and a year later, they had a child. So she had not started her career yet. She came out of school and had a child, college and had a child. And that allowed her to bring this child up to the age of 4 or 5, and that child became stable in the school system. Then she started her career. By front loading the child, the interruptions that normally happen to women in their careers when the child happens later, marriage happens, etc., she just circumvented the whole thing. And therefore, she's had an uninterrupted career now for what, 24 or 25 years now. And therefore, she's very senior. She's very highly valued at her work.
Awesome. Nice. All right. Are big bikes practical in India? This is from Ketan Patil.
Depends.
Absolutely.
I think they are.
It depends on what you choose, who you are. I think that is the one question we keep coming back to when we are replying to people about what they want to buy. I think the first question is, what do you want?
Correct.
And who are you as a person? So a lot of things will wrap around that. Is it practical enough? Are you willing to make some compromises or adjustments or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Can you use them? Yeah, depends on what you choose.
I think more than that, it's a mindset. I don't think it has anything to do with what machine you really choose. It has to do with your mindset. You have to understand that the most convenient way to commute on a two-wheeler remains a commuter. Whether that commuter is 75cc or 7500cc is not important. What is designed to commute will commute the best. Now, when you go up the ladder to a big bike where a large displacement and a specialist format is involved, you have to choose, I think, what you're willing to give up as a comfort and what you're going to get back as a joy. And that trade-off has to work, which is to me a mindset issue. It's not a motorcycle issue. It's not a brand issue. It's not a displacement issue. It's not a format issue. If I were to be saying, listen, I don't care how hot it gets, then I could commute on a sports bike every day. There's nothing stopping me from doing it. And if I were to say, no, the heat is too much, then the sport bike will never be something that I could practically commute with, right? Over the last 25 years, I have commuted on literally anything that showed up.
But that still doesn't make it practical. You're making it work. So are they practical inherently for Indian environment? If we were, let's say, living in a colder part of the world with more organized traffic, that question wouldn't even be a problem.
Exactly. Which is why I'm saying it's a mindset. It is not going to be as simple as commuting on a scooter or on a small motorcycle. It's not going to be that simple. Does that mean it cannot be done? That is the mindset I'm talking about, right? I use the Ducati as often as I like. I never have two thoughts saying, oh, today should I take the Ducati out? Never. But this is my mindset. This is what I've gotten used to. And therefore, whether it runs slightly hot or not, whether it's slightly large for a particular traffic situation or not, is not an issue. To me, it's a logistic exercise in terms of if I'm going to a crowded part of Mumbai, then I need to figure out my parking ahead of time because it's just too large and too expensive a bike to just leave wherever you show up. Which, for example, the Suzuki Bandit you would be able to do because it's such an anonymous looking big bike that you could just go and park it anywhere and most people won't even notice that there's a big bike standing there really.
So for me, I'll give a flip. Like for me, I'm using the Busa and I use the Busa regularly to commute to office, right? It was a short commute. And even then I've done Mumbai, Pune and within Mumbai and all of that. I would do that happily on the Busa. But if you ask me to do that on the Panigale or something like that, it would be a little bit of...
so you see the trade-off that he's talking about? That trade-off is your personal flavor of motorcycling.
Cool. Let's move.
Okay, I like this question and don't take the motorcycles I'm going to mention too seriously because they are not critical to this. And this is a question that has also appeared in a multiplicity of ways. So I'm just picking one of them. This is from Dr. KML Chaudhary 0411 on YouTube. In the context of the Himalayan and the Guerrilla.
Okay.
What type of motorcycle will elevate the experience in case of, say, Ladakh or Spiti or other difficult rides? Should you pick an easy motorcycle like the Guerrilla? And he's saying it's easy because he's 5'6" and he thinks that because of his height, the Guerrilla will be easier for him to handle. Or something more capable like the Himalayan in the same environment.
If I'm going to on a ride like that, of course the motorcycle is important. And especially because he's given the example of Ladakh. I want to be at ease with the environment and I want to take in the sights. It's more about the travel and the places that I'm going to for me in that state. And therefore, I want the motorcycle as a part of that ride rather than the focus of that ride. And then with the Guerrilla, I think the Guerrilla will become like people go to Ladakh on an R15. I mean, back in the day, because back then the roads were crap. Today you have some great roads over there, which makes it much easier for you to take all kinds of vehicles there. So you could easily do it on the Guerrilla, right? But for the times when you really start roughing it out, I want to be in the mood and the zone saying that I am at ease with the terrain rather than to then think too much about the motorcycle. I'm there for that land, and I would take the Himalayan.
I'm going to say that buying a motorcycle for a trip is a terrible way to buy a motorcycle. You should buy a motorcycle for your life, and every motorcycle on sale will make this trip. It doesn't matter what it is. I've gone to Ladakh on a 110cc commuter, on a 100cc scooter, all the way out to much larger machinery. And to me, they all manage these.
But did he say he was buying it for that?
It sounds like it. And there are other people who have commented saying that if I were to buy a motorcycle for a difficult trip, what should I get? Should I get an EDV like the Himalayan, or should I get something simple? I'm going to say if you're making a trip to the Himalayas, unless you're stinking rich, you should not be buying a motorcycle that is only for that trip, because it just makes no sense to me.
No, 100%. If you're buying it specifically for that, that's...
Right? So for 11 days of your life spent in the mountains, you're going to have to live with whatever choices you made for the other 350 odd days of the year. It makes just no sense to me. So to me, buy a machine that makes you excited, and then take this machine and go to these difficult conditions. You'll survive. And to me, the scooter trip is the best one.
Correct.
Because I saw the most of the mountains and the scenery and the places I went through on the scooter. And the less intimidating the machine you're riding, the more people will talk to you and the more you can engage with what's going on there. Right? This is the problem of traveling in larger cars. You have to make the effort to make sure you meet people and have a conversation. On a motorcycle, because the barrier is not there, it's a little bit easier. But on a scooter, everybody's first curious about what the hell are you doing here on a scooter, and it makes everything simpler.
Correct.
Right? So between these two, the Himalayan will make everything feel simpler. But to me, that's not the reason to get the Himalayan or the Guerrilla. Get what you want and then plan your trip.
And today we are talking on Himalayan and Guerrilla. 2007 was when I first went to Ladakh, and that was on the old... What was it?
UC
the 350?
Classic.
No, the Classic
The
was
pre-UC.
the pre-UC.
CIA.
What was it? The 350 something, yeah.
Electra Machismo something.
Yeah, Machismo, I think.
Huh.
I mean, there was nothing, and you made it work.
And to me, in hindsight, Ladakh stories are never about what bike you rode there. They're about the place you went to. They're about how you dealt with altitude sickness, who you met there, what you saw there, etc. The motorcycle almost never features in this story. So to me, what you take to Ladakh honestly doesn't matter.
The landscape is just staggering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next.
This is a good one. We've been asked this again and again. We've spoken about track days and schools for motorcycles. And we've been asked, are there no such things for cars?
Are they?
Sadly, it's such a strange thing, but it's a complete miss.
Yeah. I think Gaurav Gill's rally school is the only one that I've heard of with any regularity, right?
There is, I mean, we have brands who are doing custom events, but there's no formal track school for you to come and learn, how to drive better. It might, again, like we've said this for motorcycles as well, the setting makes it seem like it's about becoming a racer or going faster, but the thing that it gives you is more control.
Yeah.
That's up top, the biggest thing that you get.
And I think the control also comes from reorienting your mind to what you're looking at and how to make a decision rather than some physical skill involved. It is time that you will spend over that weekend focused completely on controlling the experience of driving, which is a huge bonus. But what you're actually doing is reorienting your head. And that reorientation of the head is a massive, massive deal.
Yeah. It's always said, right? The thing that keeps you from going faster isn't the motorcycle or your fitness. It's what's between the ears.
Yeah.
How you map your brain, what it's used to, how familiar it is with speed or the sensations, all of it changes the game.
Yeah, completely.
So yeah, this is missing, and it would be awesome if there were more opportunities like this for drivers.
Okay, so this is from Game Ooze SF81V on YouTube. I really like ICE motorcycles and cars, and I'm really afraid that all these EV vehicles will change the scenario in the automotive industry. And I wanted to ask, if I work really hard in my life and get my dream motorcycle, which is a Suzuki Katana, is it a good dream to have? Because he's just 18, he has a lot of hard work ahead of him. He's worried that by the time he turns 80, the EVs will have taken over and there'll be no Katana left to buy.
Can buy used. What is there?
Yeah, so I don't think that they're going to ban what's been sold already. There'll be incentives to scrap these things and take them off the roads and switch to electrics. And that too, I think, is still a long time away. If you're 18, a used katana should be well within your ambit in the next, what, 5-6 years?
Yeah.
And I think in 5-6 years, the new katana will probably still be on sale because there's no way a country of our size can switch to EVs that kind of rapidly. It just cannot be done. So I like the fact that you're thinking about a dream and working hard. That's the two parts of this set that I would really always like to see together. That's awesome. And I think you're already 18, so I don't think you're much to worry about.
Yeah, he's got time.
Enough.
Even if not as a new bike, for his used bike, why not?
Yeah, we've got this question earlier from 14-year-olds also. I'm going to say the same thing. I said, if you're 14, is anything fundamentally going to change in the next 10 years that is going to prevent you from buying an ICE? I don't think so. I think the change that will happen is by then there will be such powerful, interesting electrics that you may not have this continuing fascination for an ICE left at that point, which is a great thing to happen. It means you have your love for petrol and diesel in its place, but there are such great electrics now that this kind of feels like a throwback, which is perfect. But will it be a situation where somebody removes all of these off the table and you only have some dumbass EVs? I don't think so.
Absolutely.
The EVs that work today are already better than the ICEs.
I think we have to de-link the noise at some level. It will happen because that becomes the norm.
Yeah.
And think about it. All the classic cars and bikes that we see, they look fantastic. They sound magnificent.
Yeah.
And they are great to drive for
A small part time, yeah.
But given what our needs are today and how we use vehicles today, they are not something that you can use every day.
Yeah, no, you can't.
So we'll move ahead. It's okay. Next is Rahul R. Sengupta. And he asks how to follow traffic rules when people around you are not and not get frustrated or into danger.
What would you do?
My God, I struggle with it.
I don't.
I 100% struggle with it.
Yeah.
So my hacks are to listen to a podcast or listen to music or talk with somebody's in the car. That's the easiest way to get around.
Divert
this.
focus away from the idiocy outside.
Yeah, because then you can just be doing background processing and drive calmly, smoothly without who's cut. And right now, I think at least in Pune, traffic is getting crazy.
It is.
I've not seen it this bad. It's a new low. So it's genuinely become a concern, and this is something that I'm talking to friends. We keep hearing horror stories from Bengaluru. I'm seeing the same in Pune, and this is a genuine issue, and it's something that we all have to deal with. Distraction of some form, where you can just treat driving as your commute mode and nothing more than that. No points to be proven. And the only way I can think about this as an absolute idea is, if you get into something, anything, your choice, if you choose to escalate something, at the end of the day, for most of us, it's just not worth it. So the bottom line is just say, Jane de.
Whatever it is, the insurance will pay for. And that's what it's really for. So, yeah, I agree.
It's tough.
Yeah, I don't think it's tough. Okay, you have to change your mindset, okay? So I think of everybody as somebody else's badly behaved 6-year-old child in a car or a bike as the operator. And as soon as you think about them like that, then you realize one, they are badly behaved because their parents forgot to teach them manners. Right? One. You think about it like you're at a birthday party and there's a whole bunch of kids because everybody has a child now or whatever. And there's like 2 or 3 children who stick out because they're just so much more badly behaved than everybody else, right? I'm saying mentally, to me, every person behaving badly in traffic is that child. But remember, one, because they're a child and they're somebody else's child, there's not a lot you can do to intervene. It's not like you're going to give them parenting lessons in the middle of a birthday party, right? So first, there's somebody else's problem. So you can look at it as entertainment at best, but you don't ever feel the need to intervene and try to teach them a better way because, listen, they're not interested in learning from you. And therefore, you can keep your distance, be entertained, and then as safely and as gently as possible, get around it, get away from it, stop and let them go, whatever is the solution. Always looking to de-escalate the situation and not getting involved is the key. How much frustration you want to take from this is completely up to you. I choose 0. Okay, and there have been situations on my way home. There's a particular stretch where this construction in front end always gets jammed. And the other day, one Swiggy guy, he basically was talking on the phone and his bike rammed into the Ducati's number plate. I felt it. I looked at it. And I was like, okay, he hit the number plate. There's like 100 bikes in front of us and 100 bikes behind us. How much of a scene is this worth? I decided the Ducati's number plate is not worth a scene at all.
Yeah, would you remember the time when we were going home and we were in the Verna and that tempo guy just came and banged, I mean, basically took off the mirror.
Yeah.
I mean, it's painful, man.
Yeah.
When stuff like that happens. I mean, if it was just a light tap or something, okay, he took off the entire mirror shell.
Correct.
Oh, it hurts.
Yeah, but it is still just a mirror. Right? Does more number of gears equal more performance? This is from Rishi Hogger.
Okay. No more number of gears.
So does having a 5-speed or a 6-speed gearbox on a motorcycle, for example, or a 9-speed automatic versus a 5-speed automatic automatically imply more performance?
No.
Explain.
So gears are used to multiply torque. So that's the amount of drive you can get. So typically we associate more gears with performance. But in the ideal world, now look at electrics. And we have some really quick electrics. They have 1 or 2 gears.
At best.
So it's down to how much torque a vehicle has. So if a vehicle actually has more gears, it's because it doesn't have as much torque as what the performance requirement for that vehicle is on the engine, and it is then multiplied with the gears. So it's always a balance that is created, but it's not necessary that you have to have 6, 7, 8, 9. In fact, some of the cars with 9 and 10 speed gearboxes, they can feel quite underwhelming to drive in some conditions. So it's not like that the performance is just there.
Yeah.
They are designed for a particular use, and hopefully it works in that.
I'll give you another example from back in the day when the first race bikes were happening, 2-strokes. They had really narrow power bands. Like all of the torque would arrive like in the space of say 150, 200 RPM. And those bikes would have 12 gears, 14 gears and stuff. And the idea was you'd be able to give you a gearbox ratio that would allow you to stay in those 200 RPM. And to do that successfully over the length of a racetrack would require this poor rider to have 14 gear shifts to select from as to where does he want to go next. And remember, these are sequential gear shifts, which means if he decides that I'm in 1 and I should ideally be in 6, he has to upshift 5 times to get to 6. Right? And then the next ideal as he accelerates is going up, 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 up. Now imagine he's in 14th gear, right? And now there's a first gear corner coming up. And that means no, all the way down to 14. It's terrible. Which is why you don't see them anymore. So today, he's taken examples of the Classic 350 and the Java 42. To me, we have to always remember that the engineering design for a gearbox starts with the bottom gear and the top gear. And then they fill the gears in.
That's called the gear spread.
Right? So, and they fill the gears in, which means if you were to have 6 ratios, you have a little bit more flexibility. If you have 5 ratios, you lack a little bit of flexibility, but you're saving a little bit of cost. But when you have torquey machines that make a lot of torque, sometimes the 5th gear is only there for marketing, because if they were to have 4 ratios, if the machine is torquey enough, you may not need anymore. Right? There's something I wrote recently where I forgot to shift up from 4th. I just kept forgetting that there is a 5th and a 6th. I think it was a Maverick. I'm not sure. But I basically was going through traffic and I just felt like I'm in the right gear. And then you'd look up and realize that there were 2 more ratios left. Okay, so never equate gears as a number with performance. Typically, performance machines do tend to have 6 gears. This is true. But do they need 6 gears? Sometimes it's just marketing.
It's to widen usability. Like if you think about sport bikes, as Shumi said about race bikes, invariably today, even high performance machines will be in the peak performance in a certain rev range, which will be narrower than, let's say, a classic or a CB350 that you're talking about, not CB350 classic, where the torque spread is wider. So you need fewer gears to get the work done. You just open, you'll get the acceleration that you want instead of having to shift down. So it's just a question of matching the two.
And to extend his argument to the other side, the electrics make their peak torque all the time, which is why they basically don't need a gearbox at all. It's always usable. So you can effectively just control the motor and give you a usable machine. You don't actually need a gearbox at all, which is why things like the Aether, etc. has no real gearbox. There is a reduction, which converts a very high RPM motor into something more useful in terms of the rear wheels rotation, and that's it.
And trucks have like multiple gears, but we don't think of them as powerful.
Yeah.
Okay. Technetium C137 says how to deal with if a sound originated near the bike, it must be the bike. this is a paranoia he has while riding. What do you mean? Sound originated near the bike? Does he mean stuff happening around you, or like sound
He's
from the
saying, I
bike?
heard a new sound. Now, should I be worried that my bike has something going on with it?
Oh,
Is what I interpret that as.
okay.
And to me, look, there's no end to how much fear you want to bring into your life. Right? We were lucky. Okay, when we started out, we had older machines that were not as reliable as machines are today. And every new noise did mean something. And even in that environment, the best mechanics would tell you, hey, listen, stop listening to the bike so hard and just ride it. Let it break. When you can see an actual diminished performance, when you can see an actual event coming where something serious is about to happen, we'll intervene long before that. But every tick, tick, pick, pick noise coming out of your bike is not a cause for concern. Okay, it's a machine. A, that means it can be fixed. And B, it means there's a whole bunch of moving parts connected to each other. Something or the other will make some new noise someday. It's okay.
I don't get it. Yeah.
No, I'll keep a log of, like, for example, on my KTM, which is now 10 years old, I'll keep a log of these noises. But every time there's a new noise, I don't stop on the roadside to have an investigation. Right? When a noise really starts to get louder and louder and more persistent, then I might call a mechanic and say, my bike is making this noise. Is this something that we need to investigate or something? 99% of the time say, oh yeah, that bike does that. It's not a crisis. Next time when you come for service, just remind me. I'll tighten the thing that is causing that. And that's really the end of it.
Okay. You.
This is a good one. I like this because it sets a little bit of context. Siddhant Vaskar says, what were the challenges that you guys faced when you started to learn riding a bike? Did you guys have a problem with the gear thing? Did you stall your bike sometimes? Or were you just a pro from the beginning?
Pro from the beginning. Doesn't have
Am
to
I a
be.
pro today?
Yeah, good one. No.
I'm a professional motorcyclist today, but does that make me a pro? I don't think so. But honestly, we all started somewhere.
No. 100% no.
Yeah.
How could you be a pro?
How could you be a pro at the start? I mean, it just doesn't work. Everybody has to start learning from somewhere. You will discover, as we've discovered in the school, because we deal with a lot of students at various levels of learning. Some people are just naturally better at it at the beginning, but even they have to learn stuff. Right? And other people aren't good at the beginning, but they're willing to work through their issues and become really, really good too. And stalling and stuff, look, we've all done it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you should be thinking about getting on a motorcycle or getting into a car and immediately being fluent as the norm. That is not the case. You're putting too much pressure on yourself if you're thinking that. It's okay to make mistakes. We've been doing this for years, but even then, do we not make mistakes today? And there are enough mistakes that I have made where even in the last 4-5 years, I think, man, that was stupid.
Yeah.
It's completely stupid and unnecessary. It makes you feel like a idiot.
And no matter what situation you're in, there'll always be somebody driving better than you and riding better than you, which means there is an opportunity to learn something and move on and move forward. I don't know when you'll become a pro. To me, the only way that you become a proper pro is you go racing and somebody pays you to race.
Wait. Even in that, there's it's dark, but it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, think about F1 and MotoGP. The pinnacles of racing.
Yeah.
4-wheelers, 2-wheelers.
Yeah.
It's always said, the best 22 in the world, riders in the world, the best 24 drivers in the world.
Yeah.
And there's one guy who's whooping everybody's ass.
Correct.
Consistently.
Correct.
Can you imagine how the other 23 feel?
Yeah.
Do they feel like the best riders or drivers in the world? Imagine even at that level, they'll be feeling like, man, I'm not being able to crack it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we are thankfully not professional drivers or riders, so we don't have to deal with that pressure. Just drive smooth, just drive easy, enjoy yourself, you'll get there.
Yeah, and I don't want to come off as total amateurs either. Both of us have put in a lot of effort into making sure we drive really well and we ride really well, to the point, and this is the key thing, where we can separate what we did and what the vehicle did. And that is critical to my job. To be able to say the bike wobbled versus I made the bike wobble. If I made the bike wobble, then it's not the bike's fault and it cannot go in the road test as this is a wobbly bike. But if I was in a smooth and stable place and the bike started to wobble, then it needs to go into the road test as saying that this is a slightly wobbly machine. We have enough skill to be able to do that job. When we go to the racetrack, are two of us the fastest riders or drivers there? No. There are professionals who will show up who are always much faster than us. Always. There are also amateurs who've ridden less than us who turn out faster than us because of what I said in the beginning. Some people are just naturally better at it. I will always think about this as an opportunity to learn something from them.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect my ego at all. And therefore, when you're starting out, what you're basically saying is, I'm in class 1. Everybody was in class 1 at some point. If you continue to learn, then eventually you will graduate school and then college, and then you'll get a doctorate in motorcycling or driving. But you can't get to the doctorate on day 1. There's no way to do it. Rossi couldn't do it on day 1.
On this one thing, especially in cars, I would say, when you're spending time getting familiarized to find that smoothness, it is normal for us to be like, get in the car, switch on music, switch on the radio. There's so much for you to do in that.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I don't do. Even now, I know we spoke about when we want to drive in traffic, you listen to something and stuff like that. But when we are trying to understand a vehicle, a car or a bike, all the distractions are removed. You are
Correct.
focused on the machine and the environment and seeing how it's working in that environment.
Correct.
And that's when you learn and connect with it, and that'll help you get better.
The one thing that leads me to think about is both of us have driven and ridden for the sake of the driving and the riding so that we could figure something out about our skill or about that vehicle. Most people who are trying to learn usually use their vehicles to go somewhere for another job, and they're doing a process of learning on that errand, as it were. If you want to be serious about this, then you need to make time to go out and practice. And a go out and practice ride or drive is exclusively for the purpose of practicing some skills. It's not just seat time. Seat time helps. But to me, it needs to have a plan, which means I would fix a road. I would always use this road to practice. I would find a time when it is usually empty so that I can practice in peace and not get in other people's way while I'm trying to figure something out. It doesn't have to be fast always either. But if I'm, for example, practicing braking, then I want to be out at like 5, 6 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday, knowing nobody else is there. And then figure out where can you practice braking safely. It may not be on your main route. It might be an offshoot of a road where nobody goes, or a cul-de-sac of some sort. But all of this conscious process is how you become better and better at it. It's not like subconsciously I drove a lot, so I must know a lot. We've had people come up to the school, okay, which have 13 years of riding experience. They put a lakh of kilometers or more on their machines. But when they come to the school for the first time, that's the first time they're actively thinking about motorcycling as a skill. Till now, they've learned whatever they've learned along the way, and not all of it is bad. But some of it is bad, and it's not obvious to them what it is.
Rishabh Banotra asks, why are companies still making diesel cars when even the government is going to ban them in the near future? Also, why people are buying them in the first place and paying a hefty amount of money on something whose future is uncertain? Why are companies still making them? Because there are still buyers for them.
Correct.
Because they've invested money in that technology. So until the day that the government actually bans them,
or the customers completely disappear,
they will continue to make them.
Yeah.
That's the business side of it. And same way in the economics, for people who are covering a lot of kilometers, today diesel still makes sense. It may get banned 7 years from now, but if I want to recover my additional investment in the next 3, 4, 5 years, it makes sense.
And most of the commercial transportation is on diesel. So I don't know that diesel itself will actually ever get banned. Private diesel cars are looking like they're in some amount of trouble. But as long as there are customers, you'll get diesel cars.
And see, that solution works for some people and it's fine. They have that option. It's becoming more and more difficult for people to get the right option for them. But, I mean, there are options available, which is good. Next.
I want to read you an anecdote next. And it has a CB350 in it, so obviously we have to do this, right? This is from Anirudh TT. Since the CB350 has been brought quite often in conversations on this channel, I guess is the right time to share that my nearly 60-year-old dad recently bought a Honda CB350 3 weeks ago. They test rode the Hunter 350, the Meteor 350, and the Speed 400 before concluding on the Honda. So this is what he said about this Honda I think it was a recording of some sort, and he's transcribed the recording for us. Thank you. I was initially least interested to ride it, and I just told my dad it's okay. If he alone rode it, and after 10 minutes, he returned riding it, and he was just huge smile on dad's face. And something that really didn't happen with the other 350s, the Hunter and the Meteor that they tested. So this triggered Anirudh's curiosity, and Anirudh went for a spin. And 10 minutes later, he returned, utterly surprised and, of course, grinning. And he thought that the Royal Enfields were smooth, which they are now. But and they've come a long way. His words, not mine. But The CB350 to him felt like it was in another league. What Anirudh thought was so unbelievable is that for not even a second, he imagined that he was riding a bike with a curb weight of 181 kilos. What Anirudh normally rides is an R15, which is 141 kilos. So he imagines that the extra 40 kilos, he should have felt it in some way or the other. But magically, he didn't, and the exhaust note is very soothing to his ear. It resembles a gradually accelerating motorboat with rhythmic beats. I don't care it's trying to replicate a Royal Enfield, and therefore it's not exactly like a pure Honda. It sounds pure, rhythmic, period. Having just 20 bhp from the long stroke 350, it might feel slow, but seriously, I can see why people love these type of machines. Not everyone wants the fastest or loudest accelerating machine always. I can totally see why my dad was smiling, says Anirudh. That was it. Next time, we went straight, booked it, bought it. My dad usually takes his time when it comes to such decision, but this time it was different, so I know he really loves it. And now some context. In Anirudh's garage are two R15s, a silver R15M and his brother's R15 version 4 in blue, and the CB350. The one bike which you guys absolutely love and the other which you absolutely do not recommend. Funny, isn't it? I guess this proves how important a test ride is. As much as the CB350 gets looked down upon, I really respect you guys emphasizing the test rides. Motorcycles are absolutely hard overhead at the end of the day. And after that is just appreciation for our episode, so I'm not going to go into it. That's the story.
Anirudh, that was beautifully written, man. It made me want to ride a CB350 again.
I won't go that far. But you know what I'm really kicked about this is I love the fact that you and your dad went out and got test rides. That you let your dad figure out what would be the right kind of bike for him. And if that turns out to be the Honda CB350, honestly, I can only congratulate you guys on having made a good decision for yourselves. Does that change my ability to recommend the CB350? Not even a little bit. But again, as I've said before, motorcycles are intensely personal things. And what you choose for yourself is not something that I should ever hold against you, and I won't. I am happy you guys are riding. Period. Hi, Dad.
Okay. Daniel Fernandez has commented, what is regarded as good gear? Recommendations for all budgets and anecdotal accounts outlining the importance of riding gear. Second, what makes a good mechanic? How do you find a good mechanic? This is specifically for motorcycles. And the third question is about earplugs and sound reduction.
Okay, so let's do this in reverse order and we'll do it the simplest way possible. Earplugs are important because they turn the volume of the world down. They don't block sound. They are not cancelling devices. They are volume control devices. If you're going to look for how much sound they reduce, you'll see a decibel rating. To me, never go above 29. I've tried 33s. They are so quiet you can't hear a thing and it feels really, really uncomfortable. To me, start with the cheapest earplugs you can. And on Amazon, there's 1,000 versions of it. The yellow foams are generally the best because they're the softest in the disposables. But I know people who use swimming plugs. The swimming plugs have a long stock and they simply cut the stock to size and then it works. Whatever works is good enough as a starting point. To me, I have never felt like investing in more expensive earplugs like no noise or loop or whatever these things are. To me, disposable foams work well enough, but you'll find your own way. The only thing I want to tell you is there's a technique to putting them in. Please look this up on YouTube. One. And two, on the first few rides that you're going to use earplugs, and you should always use earplugs, but the first few rides, don't put it on as you're climbing on the bike. Put it on in the house hours earlier and give your brain time to adapt to this new volume level. And it takes time for it to come back to you. Once it has returned to you, you'll find the motorcycle is far more peaceful to ride. Just don't do it like put it in and get on the bike straight away. You will just feel like you're completely disconnected from the experience.
Isn't ours a bit too much?
The first times. The first few times. Because it takes a while for you to understand and internalize the idea that yes, I will hear everything. There's nothing that is being taken away from my sound environment. Just to make sure you understand that.
Okay, so you're in a familiar space, so you kind of tune into how much reduction is happening.
Correct. So if I'm going to commute to work, for example, and let's say I leave home at 9, the earplugs will be in by some 6:30 as soon as I've woken up. And they're inside. And the idea is I'm operating normally. First, I can't hear a thing. And then the brain retunes to that new volume level. By the time I get on the bike, I am used to this new volume level. By the 5th, 8th time, your brain will make the switch immediately. And then you don't have to ever worry about it again. Only the first time. The second question was about how do you find a good mechanic? Trial and error and word of mouth. There's only 2 ways to do this. Word of mouth is the fastest. So basically you have to ask people who seem to be really enjoying their motorcycling, which mechanics do they go to and figure out that part. and the other is trial and error, which is more troublesome, but you'll have to go mechanic to mechanic to mechanic and see who sits in your wavelength and works well with you. I've been lucky. My first good mechanic was Chotu in Delhi, and I found Chotu basically because when I looked for RD350s, his name started to show up everywhere. His name is Ashwini Rana. It showed up everywhere. And when I went, same wavelength, gold. When I came here to Mumbai, everybody mentioned Zubin Ponappa. Went and met him, same wavelength. And it was a very cute conversation because he was loaning us his CBR 600 for a shoot. And he basically said, please be, and he's very, very sweet and soft spoken. And he said, please be careful. This is my livelihood. And I think I said that I don't have a choice about being careful because this is my livelihood. Right? And from that moment on, we've basically been working together forever. So I found the mechanics that I go to regularly, more or less through word of mouth. Slipstream, Kunal in Pune, same. Word of mouth, heard about it, saw the content on Instagram and it looked good. I've not gone to him personally, but Zenjin, which is in North Mumbai, is run by Zen, who we've met at the racetrack. And Zen running a garage, awesome. So to me, largely word of mouth. When word of mouth doesn't work, you'll have to do trial and error. What about you? How did you find Amjad?
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth, right? So.
And then I worked with him, of course.
Yeah, no. Once you've established connections, then you do various things. But how do you get the first sign of this?
I think there's no way around it. The only way to do is word of mouth. Because you can't go and do trial and error because the intervals will be so long. And if something is wrong, then it's so difficult to get it fixed then, right?
Correct.
You have to go find somebody. If somebody doesn't do a good job, then you have to find somebody else to fix the problem that somebody else created.
Correct.
So I'd much rather take more time and find the right person than go trial and error. Trial and error is, I mean, you may be in a completely new environment.
I'm just saying that if you don't have word of mouth, I cannot think of any other way to do this apart from trial and error.
Yeah. There's no other way. Even if you're in a new environment, let's say you move to a new city and you want to find a mechanic, you're not going to go to the guy who's closest to you by default. He may turn out to be the right guy, but you're just not going to land up there. You're going to at least do your homework on that, find out whether he's good, get talking to somebody and figure it out.
Yeah.
No other way for outside that.
Last is riding gear. I'll give you simple, because it's in the middle of an episode, we'll do detailed later. I'll give you a simple idea. The essential equipment that you need head to toe is helmet, jacket, gloves, riding pants and boots. This is your full set. Okay. This assumes that your pants and your jacket already has armor in it. If it doesn't have armor in it, then you need to acquire armor. So for example, if your jacket doesn't have a back protector, you should get a back protector and then you should use it every day. Now helmets, to me in India, because of the way the ISI is structured and the way it is enforced, I would not buy a helmet that only has an ISI rating. I would want a ISI and a ECE rating. Given a current import situation, I'm okay with ECE 2205, which is a slightly older standard, or 2206, which is the current latest standard. I don't want to see any other certifications. They don't matter as much. I need ISI so that when the police stops me, I have a legal helmet. And I want ECE so that a third party has tested to make sure the helmet is safe. Above this, whatever budgets you bring, what brands you buy is all about comfort, materials, quality, finish, etc. The key thing to a helmet outside of the certification is it should fit you as tightly and comfortably as it can. Tightly and comfortably both. If it's loose, it's not going to work. If it's uncomfortable, you won't use it. Simple. Jackets, pants, gloves and boots, the only way you can tell how safe they're going to be, unfortunately, is the CE rating, which is a European standard, which is also third party tested. So there's no other way for me to give you a straight, this is what it is. So jackets are tested in AAA and AAA, which gives you how long will they slide before skin is exposed. Armor is tested at CE level 1 and 2. You can look all of these up in detail. They're not complicated to understand, but the standard itself is complicated and you don't need to know it. So you should have CE rated jacket, CE rated armor as basic. Same goes for pants. Boots are also tested today. You can see CE ratings on boots. It's very rare and the government is about to change laws for boots. So a lot of riding boots will just disappear until they're recertified for Indian standards. And you should get some gloves, which also have CE ratings. CE rated gloves are slightly hard to find. But the backup for I don't know where the rated stuff is to go to brands that you can trust. So today, I would eyes closed trust, for example, Viaterra. I would just buy their gear. And if Viaterra's team says this is safe enough to do this job, I think most of the time it will. Rhinox is right behind them. They also make very, very cost effective but very decent gear. Rhinox fits can be slightly odd. Via Terra's fits are more consistent. Both brands work really well. Both are very, very cost-effective brands. Above this, there's a whole bunch of imported and cheap brands like the bottom of Forma's range for boots. And there are expensive brands like TCX, Alpenstars, etc. How much money you want to spend changes. If they're being imported, they'll probably also be CE rated, which is a safety thing. And right at the top of the ladder is the top of the line equipment from Alpenstars, from Climb, etc., etc., etc. At this point, there's enough data on the internet to tell you what works and what doesn't. The only thing I would warn you against, whatever says breathable is just too warm for our conditions. You want it vented. Ideally, you want mesh wherever you can get, except obviously on your helmet. Simple.
Is it possible for you to look at a helmet that's more expensive but isn't at these ratings that you recommend?
I wouldn't buy it.
No. Does it happen?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
So it's not directly a factor of price.
No.
Right?
To me, the EC rating takes precedence over everything else. So I definitely needed ISI for the road. I definitely wanted EC rated so that I know somebody tested it and it worked. After that, which brand it is, it's up to you. There will be 6,000 rupee EC helmets and the 90,000 rupee RI also in there.
So the reason why I'm bringing this up is that it's easy to confuse price as better protection. That's not always the case.
No.
We've seen it again and again with riding gear. Usability can be an issue, even though they might be a premium brand. It can be, the price can be immense, but it's not necessarily hard bearing, which you want in our conditions, because we go through a lot of cycles of hot, cold, rain, a lot of that. So it has to last. So those kind of factors also. So always price is not an indicator. So you will have to look at these factors to make a better call. And again, if somebody's used any of this gear, that feedback is...
Yeah. And I would always, in the case of protective gear, I would always be brand centric. I would choose brands that I can trust. And not blindly. Okay. So for example, we'll get a question saying XYZ brand has a jacket at a great price. I've never seen this jacket. So even if it's CE certified, I am circumspect about recommending it.
So the two brands he didn't mention but are my favorites, Dainese and RS Taichi.
Correct.
Fantastic. I mean, by and large, whatever I have seen and used of theirs, superb. And I had the Laguna Seca, which was for me like second skin.
Leathers.
Leather suit. It was second skin. But I never bought it again because they changed the design for the next one. I think it was this Laguna Seca 3 that came then. I also don't remember now. But since then, they're now I think at 5 or 6 or something like that. But the fit changed and the experience completely changed. So I was not so sure. It wasn't a sure thing again for me to just go and pick that up. So it was great. But would I just blindly go and pick up the same thing again in its next iteration without trying it? No.
Yeah. So I would, just to reiterate the point, there are lots of brands selling cheap gear today. If it is CE certified, you should be okay. But I would rather pick a brand I trust over everything else.
100%.
Okay, CE ratings are expensive to get. Okay, which is why an Indian brand may not want to do CE ratings. I would tell them to do it, it's worth it. But if you can't see a CE rating, then you should be, do I trust this brand or not? If you don't trust it, the deal isn't worth it, honestly. Yeah.
Next.
I have another anecdote. I love anecdotes. This is from Vivek Araga. We had a family convoy, an Omni, an Ambassador, and a Qualis. Once, on one of our trips, the Omni's brakes went spongy due to overheating and needed a brake. The Qualis ran without a fuss. But the Ambassador caught fire. The culprit was the practice of spreading hay on the roads in villages. Some straw got stuck near the flywheel and the heat set fire to it. I was 6 and I was made to sit in front of the gear stick. A huge thick puff of smoke hit my face and I warned the others. That was the last of that Ambassador in the family. My uncle sold it and bought an S-Team.
This one had us in splits, man.
Yeah.
What a story.
Yeah.
It actually seems like a different timeline, and which it is
Which
very
it is,
clearly.
yeah.
To think about an Ambassador, old village roads where there's straw on the roads.
Yeah.
And it was so common. I haven't seen that in quite some time.
Yeah.
But that used to be so normal. You're crossing a village and there'd be stuff on the road and you just drive over it.
Yeah, so on my commute home every day, there's a hotel called the Beetle in Powai. Just before the Beetle is like a little basti type thing. And one of those guys always puts the green, that plastic carpet that they use, is always on the road drying. So throughout the monsoon, you're running over that green carpet.
God, must be slippery.
Yeah, so you have to always remember that that's the patch where you can't brake, you can't really turn, and you can't really accelerate. You just get through it somehow.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
The next comment is from Sayantan Chattopadhyay, 9711. This is his story. And Thank you for sharing it. For me, I bought my first bike with the money I saved up for my marriage. When my fiance passed a few months before the marriage, I chose to buy the motorcycle, which we always wanted to buy anyways. And initially, the plan was to buy it after the marriage. My bike helped me keep my sanity throughout that time, and it continues even now. I also talk to my bike and always take care of it. Some people ask me why I am so obsessed with my motorcycle. I always say that this bike cost me more than just my money.
Hmm. It's a tough situation to be in.
Yeah. Lots of love, man. Okay, your turn.
Okay, let me find something. Priyanuj Datta 7549 says, "Don't let Shumi near an infinity gauntlet. He will snap his fingers without a thought."
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Okay, this is a good one, and I think Karthik will have answers to this. Vardhan Rathi again
Ah,
is a regular commenter. Luxury has been misrepresented as a term for quite some time in the car world now. Automakers have directly linked luxury to the amount and size of equipment the vehicle has, which he feels is fundamentally wrong. To Vardhan, luxury is in the suspension setup, steering feedback, body panels, engine power delivery, gearbox, smoothness, seat cushioning, chassis response, and how the car is built. Luxury is not in the number and inches of screens, leather stitching on the steering, or the upholstery of the seats. Reliability is the best form of luxury one can have from a vehicle.
I owe you a hug, man. This is. Oh god, luxury is really such a disappointment. No, it is. Because luxury is just becoming a game of features and gimmicks today. And that is. To me, luxury is about getting the details, not stopping at 9/10, going to 10/10. And it's always the small things, the things that you can't show in a freaking reel, the stuff that you can't put in a brochure. It's the stuff that you experience on the go in different situations for that vehicle to be able to deal with different conditions. And you're right, maybe reliability for our Indian conditions is the ultimate luxury.
Yeah.
Our conditions are tough, and so today when we talk about the big brands, we spoke about it recently, right? The Mercedes are seen as the pinnacle, and they've always, the S class, the best car in the world. But have they been making the best cars in the world? Has it been the
No, it's
best
a
brand
marketing
though?
term.
Yeah, I mean, they have used it, they built it at one time, it was the ultimate, but today is it?
Yeah, I'll give you an example from MotorInc itself. I was listening to the Basalt MotorInc first. You know how I signed off? Thank you for watching MotorInc first.
What?
That's what I exactly said. I said, thank you for watching Motoring First. Motoring First is the name of the segment. You didn't watch Motoring First. I don't know that you did or didn't. And if you did, thank you. But it's the name of the segment. In the
Yeah.
same way, the S Class is the world's best car is a marketing tagline. It had nothing to do with whether it's the best or not.
Yeah, and today you're right. Screens are becoming like now. I think the newer cars are coming with 3 screens. I don't know if I want
I have
that many
decided I'm going
screens
to
in
buy
my
a car.
car.
I have decided I'm going to buy a car.
Why?
When it has the center console has a 55-inch OLED screen.
55
Yes.
I'd love how are you going to look outside the car with the 50?
That screen will be an 85-inch OLED screen, which will project what is happening outside on the screen.
So it's a simulator then, huh?
No, so I can have multiple windows. So I can be scrolling reels here. I can be chatting with my friends here, and I can see what's happening in the world projected on the screen and in glass and all old-fashioned stuff like that anymore.
So luxury is finesse.
Yeah.
Luxury is
I want to stop him right there. Luxury is finesse. I also have comments on this, but this is the key thing. Luxury is not equipment, it is finesse. Sorry, I interrupted you.
And there are so many small things which will make you fall in love with some cars. And I'm not just hating on Mercedes or something. They've had some lovely cars. I have a 124, which for me is a symbol of what Mercedes' excellence at one time was over delivering, right? Going beyond what people's expectations were. So it's this, and the 124 is something that I love. Not because it's a Mercedes, but because of how it drives. This is the old E-Class, just for the record. So the suspension, on our roads, it glides, man. There's a speed like at about 80, 90. It feels like you're not even touching the road. It's just
and they were famous for it
gliding.
during that era.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
That engine, it's a 2.2 liter petrol, 5-speed manual. You leave it in third. From 20 to 100 something.
Hey, that's a Maruti gearbox.
It's just creamy. It's just effortless. And that, to me, still speaks volumes about luxury. It's an old car today.
Correct.
It's not the easiest car to live with every day and drive around. But that experience is magical.
Yeah. And the joy of that W124 would change very slightly if the seats were fabric or leatherette or leather or ventilated. The fundamentals of the car is what gives him joy. That's luxury. I would say the same thing about, for example, RI helmets. I get a lot of questions saying you wear a 90,000 rupee helmet. What does it have that is worth 90,000 rupees? It's the finesse. It's the visor mechanism, for example, not having notches. You can't feel the notches. It opens smoothly, but you can leave it wherever and it stays there. It's a very small thing, but it adds to that experience. The vents close positively with a click every single time. There is no mistaking it for anything else. And 5 years later, that helmet will continue to click and all of those things will work like that. It's the materials they choose. It's the story that the brand tells. How Arai says, for example, that the impact test is one impact. But Arai says, that's not how accidents work. So we will test 4 impacts, 3 impacts. It's a combination of all of those things that lead to the finesse of the product, which I perceive as a luxury. And then I'm willing to pay them that kind of money.
So on this, the Arai example is great because that's the other thing that I want to say. Luxury is about going beyond what is the norm and delivering something which creates value in your life.
Correct.
Changes your life, right?
Yes.
That is luxury. That is the power of additional money, right? Alright, the one thing which the fit for me, it has been awesome. The helmet shape and whatever, I like the subtle design and all. But the one thing for which I absolutely have loved them is the visor.
Yeah.
Until then, every helmet that I owned,
Yeah.
how many times did I have to change the visor in a year?
Yeah.
The RI, 3-4 years, nothing.
I've been using Arais for about 18 years now. I can honestly tell you, I still have to do this now and then.
No.
Because I can't tell whether the visor is down or up because it's so clear. So I will.
So this is basically, they call it, I think it's polycarbonate. So it doesn't get scratched.
That easily. It does get scratched, but it takes a long time to happen.
But it takes something significant for it to really get scratched. So normal use of keeping it, taking it out of your bag, putting it in, all of that, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Your turn.
Okay. This comment is from Nitesh Joshi, 4583. Long before the FIRE movement gained traction, I dreamt of retiring early. But over time, I realized that life loses its charm if there's nothing worth living for. Now I want to keep doing what I love and excel at it. My priorities are clear: happiness, health, and wealth in that very order. As I embrace my mid-30s, a little early to be talking like this, then I've discovered a newfound passion for riding and driving, which now brings me happiness. Whether I'll tour the world remains uncertain, but I find immense joy in the simple pleasures of commuting to the office or taking hour-long drives with my wife and daughter around the city. With each ride and new discovery, the dream of touring the world feels increasingly within reach. Thanks.
What the hell is he talking about? He's only 30, mid-30s.
Yeah, man. I mean, the first para had me thinking that you are closer to like retirement age or something, man. But anyways, good. Enjoy your drives, especially the family part is awesome. It's always more fun.
And to me, the other part is also awesome, which is work is a very important part of what we do. It gives you meaning. It gives you something to do. And I've seen people who retire and retire. Like, okay, I will not do anything ever again. And I see their health, especially older people,
disaster,
obviously. Yeah, I see their health declining instantly. You can instantly see a change. So to me, remaining productive, and whether that is, I have so much money that my productivity is about things that I'm happy to do, or whether it is, I just like to work, so I'm going to continue to work, whatever it is. Continuing to work, making sure your brain is being used every day, making sure your body is being used every day is far more productive than saying, I have done enough, now I'm going to retire.
I was talking to Vanita the other day and I was thinking about Sirhan and my nephews and nieces. I was thinking life as we go look forward looks more and more uncertain and sometimes a bit darker. And I was just thinking, what is it in all of this that I would wish for them? And I finally nailed it. What I would wish for them is good challenges.
Yeah.
It's not that when you retire, suddenly life will become more beautiful. We as humans need something to challenge us.
Always.
And without that, we will just wither away. Without that, we cannot have a happy life. You have to have a challenge, something to focus and hone you into the moment, right? And that is so important. So you may be not enjoying your work and thinking something else will be more enjoyable. It could be, but is there not satisfaction to be gained from what you're doing here and now?
Yeah.
I always hear this argument that I want to do something creative. And when I was doing my MBA, I remember my accountancy professor telling us this story about one major Indian conglomerate and saying that accountancy is not boring. There is so much creativity to happen over there. And he gave the example of this one company which imported an entire factory in one day into India, because in that for one day the government had a different rule for imports for a certain kind of machinery.
Oh, awesome.
They did creative. I mean, that was creativity maxed out for a business level, and then how they did the accounts for that and all of it. So there is creativity and joy to be found in everything that you do. There is pros and cons for everything. So whatever it is, enjoy what you're doing and chase your dream 100%.
This is also from YouTube from Don Mitchell, and this is very close to my heart. I remember an early morning ride, happened to look at the rearview mirror and saw the rising sun, a beautiful glob of orange. First thought, I should come to a stop, pull out the phone and get a picture, and because the moment was so Instagrammable. And then I was like, forget it. It would ruin the moment and interrupt the feel of now. Haven't pulled out my phone to capture such moments since.
Dude, can you believe it? I can see the sun right now. If you had written which bike it was, the picture would have been complete.
Yeah.
I would have known where you were. Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, a lot of people who are traveling today have their phones out in the front of their faces constantly. They have not been there. You know what I do? I honestly do this, okay? So we used to travel a lot for work, where, for example, I have to go to Barcelona to write something or Madrid to write something or whatever. And these are rush trips, where some amount of tourism may or may not happen. And if tourism is happening, I would just be so reluctant to pull out my phone, because somebody's taken a picture of that thing already. And if I had to show it to somebody saying, whatever, look, Sagrada Familia, I can just download that thing. I don't have to take a picture of it. What's the point? If you're into photography as a hobby, then that's a whole different thing. But if you're doing this to capture a moment that you want to show somebody, I would be very, very, very reluctant to pull my phone out and remove myself for the experience. You know what I mean?
I'm terrible at this.
Yeah, no, I'm consciously telling you. I rode a motorcycle many, many years ago. I took an R1 in Portugal and I went from wherever to wherever. I really have no photographs apart from the 3 that I needed for that story to be printed in the magazine. I literally could not be bothered. And even today, I am full of great visual memories of rides, of sensations and stuff. My photo album doesn't have any of it. I'm happy to sit down and describe these things to you, because I love to talk also. That also helps. I'm happy to describe these things to you, but can I show you? Say, no, I don't have them. But if you say, oh, you went to Pang, what does Pang look like? I'll download great pictures of Pang and show you, because better people than me have photographed Pang in better light than I have. I don't have to do it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Right? Ishan Bhattaya has sat at minus 20 degrees in the night and shot the Milky Way at Pang. Hence, I feel no need to do it. He's already put in the effort. He's a far superior photographer to me. I'll just ask Ishan, say, I need to show this to people. Can you please show me a picture? That's it.
Sorry, I'm very quiet on this because, I mean,
it's not worthy of comment only.
It just doesn't even enter my frame of reference.
Yeah. This is also the reason why you've been asking, saying, can we put a camera on the helmet, or can Karthik wear a GoPro and then go for a drive-in? Can we have that footage? I don't think it achieves anything.
It's much, I mean, this comment itself illustrates it so beautifully. If you are in the moment, you can pull other people in the moment just with your words. And that was simple and beautiful.
All right.
Aditya Khapre has shared an incident. I was in an accident in a ghat. I blacked out for 5 minutes. When I woke up, I realized both my wrists were shattered. Thankfully, people stopped and were standing nearby to help me, but they had no idea what they were doing. One person started removing my helmet. Thankfully, I was awake, so I shouted no. Since my wrists were shattered, I was worried about stabilizing them, and I decided to make a support out of my knee guards. Skoyoko, if anyone's curious. I meticulously guided the person helping me on how to remove them, where to place them. The hinge should be at the elbows, lock it around my bicep, lock it at my palms, etc. I don't know how my mind was making these decisions in that situation. Remember, I had a big enough crash to break my wrists and blackout. I woke up after that and then I was thinking and saying these things. Meanwhile, my riding buddy who had left ahead came back. By then, I was somewhat stabilized. I stood up, walked to my buddy, moved my neck around to see if anything was hurting, and then asked him to remove my helmet. Never remove your helmet was the only advice I think I remembered from Shumi's old podcasts.
Awesome. And honestly, there's no logic to this in terms of will you be able to do this or not. Okay, what happens post a crash? There's a lot of chemicals flooding your system. This is sounds like a lot of adrenaline, and humans can do incredible things on adrenaline. It's how it is. What he did though is super admirable,
Incredible.
right? He's on the ground, I'm assuming, lying down or whatever, and he's managing an accident situation around himself using what resources he's got. That is Aditya. Awesome. I can't tell you that is repeatable though, okay? The next time, God forbid, something like this happens, I don't know you'll be able to consciously make these decisions or not, which is why I say we train so that we can help others, but we have to assume the worst case for ourselves because we don't know who's going to try and help. You have to remember that these people are just trying to do the best they can with what they know. Sometimes it'll cause harm, and most of the time it'll do good. And that's just how it is.
Lucky as well.
But
And
super, super, super awesome to read this.
he's also replied back saying, "This happened on 31st December 2023. I'm recovered now." And the funny part is, I had booked a new bike 15 days before this happened, and I wanted to keep it as a surprise. It was very interesting. It was very interesting when I went to receive the bike with plasters on both of my hands, and it was fun to see the reaction on my family's face. Your family is very understanding and accommodating. Fantastic.
Yashwant Nihar, who I think is a regular. How do you folks manage to track long test rides in your 50s, fitness insights? It's a much needed topic. How do you do it, Kartikeya, at your advanced years? How do you keep up with the schedule?
You should go, man.
I'm the senior.
You're the fitter
I
one.
choose to speak later.
You're the fitter one. You start.
I am the senior. I will speak
अरे
last.
वाह, ये तो अच्छा है यार.
Sometimes the age card is visible and must be used, right? He's the youngster in the room, so you go first.
Do whatever I can. As simple
What does
as
that mean?
So, if I can do 15 minutes, 15 minutes.
Exercise.
Yeah. Whatever I can figure out in the situation available to me. So, like when we used to travel a lot. So, we used to be doing 4 flights a week easy.
Easy.
We'd be living more out of hotel rooms than our own homes. We wouldn't know when we are eating, how much sleep we're going to get a night, and the days would always be long. So in that, it was just being able to squeeze in the whatever opportunity you got. So like we try and get to the hotel quickly if we have an event in the evening, so we could get a 20-minute run once we got there, or just if you have enough space in your room to do Surya Namaskars, right? That would be the simplest thing for you to pull off at any given point in time. So whatever you can manage, and the day you have the opportunity to do more, I'll do more.
And he's slightly nuts, okay? We were in New Zealand together, I think. And when we went to ride the Scout,
yeah.
and there were huts in this resort where we were at, and then I'm hearing huffing and puffing coming from behind the hut, okay? And this, and I'm like, what a weird noise to hear in the middle of nowhere. This man pulling Surya Namaskars behind the hut.
He's probably, oh, now I remember. Oh, shucks, I'd forgotten about it. Yeah, yeah. So the location was stellar. We were at this beach.
Yeah, and notice he didn't think the moment was Instagrammable. He thought it was Surya Namaskarable.
So it was beautiful because the rooms was at a slight height. Then there was the beach and the ocean and the sun was setting. So it was like the moment to do Surya Namaskars.
I was noticing this moment until in the background I heard 2, 3.
So yeah, we would have been tired because imagine getting to New Zealand. It's
Yeah.
a long hike.
Yeah.
But the moment was awesome. You had the opportunity. You took it. You didn't know how much you would be able to do. I don't remember how much time I spent doing that enough to disturb him. But yeah, you took that.
It started as a disturbance. Eventually, it was just amusement. So I'm okay. I had a very amusing sunset.
So what's your gig?
I think if you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, your body learns how to deal with it. So the way I deal with fitness for motorcycling at a very fundamental level is, if you ride more, your body will learn how to deal with it. I was talking about it in the classroom this last weekend when I was at the school also. The question was, how much fitness is required to be a motorcyclist? I would say no fitness is required to be a motorcyclist. If you ride enough, your body will figure the rest of it out. Is the baseline. It's not what is possible, it is what the baseline is. Okay, there are people who are extremely obese, short, tall, skinny, weak, sick, all of whom ride motorcycles on a regular basis. If they ride enough, the body figures out how to apportion resources, mobility, strength, etc., to make sure this constant activity is dealt with. So this is your baseline. If you do no fitness work but ride a motorcycle a lot, your body will learn. I'll give you example of this. I ride a tremendous amount. But after COVID, when I went back to riding motorcycles after what, a 2-year break, I couldn't get from Mumbai to Pune without pain, 130 kilometers from my house. 2 years before this, before COVID shut down the motorcycling thing, I would go from here to Bengaluru 1,000 kilometers without noticing any physical strain at all. Right? 6 months after that, having started to ride motorcycles regularly again, I'd do Mumbai Pune without even thinking again. So first, your first level of fitness is, if you do it enough, your body will figure the rest of it out. Above this is your commitment level. For example, if I want to ride really well, hard and fast at the racetrack, then I need a lot of core strength. I need a lot of stamina. That requires work, which could be a gym routine, which could be a whole bunch of Surya Namaskars, whatever the mechanism is. You have to figure that part out. Somewhere in the middle is where most of us will fall. And what I always say is, this 50 as a number means really a lot less than you think. You're as old as you decide you're going to be. Like, I see my classmates, and they don't watch MotorInc, so I can say this like quite happily. I see my classmates and they feel and look much older than I am because they choose to behave like older people, right? And I look and feel like I am because in my head I am still 7 years old. So I am just happy and excited to do this. Because I'm happy and excited, I behave like a younger person. Outside of this is a little bit of genetics. If you're inclined towards, I don't know, arthritis or osteoporosis or whatever with age, those things will get in your way. How much of a challenge? It's a personal. How will you overcome this challenge? That's personal. How early do you seek medical intervention to get over these things? Also personal. This has happened to us in our comments also. Okay, people will say, I ride this bike, I get severe backache. I want to change my bike. Okay, fair enough. Why don't you go to a doctor first? Why should I go to a doctor? You should go to a doctor because your back is hurting. And then the doctor will say, oh, you have this condition for which you need to do these exercises and take this medication. And 3 months later, they are fit and they can ride that bike. And the doctor cost them 2,000 rupees plus medication. A new bike would have cost them, I don't know, 120,000. So I'm just saying that. So sometimes it's also about choosing, saying, this doesn't feel right. I just get a medical opinion and see that this is not a medical thing that needs to be treated and not an age thing.
Adding on to that, my mom, she's 73. She's played hockey for India. So for us growing up, activity has been part of our life.
Correct.
And even today, she'll run 5-7 kilometers. Like, for her, that's okay. And swim, all of that. So that's just conditioning because she's done it throughout her life.
Correct.
She continues to do it and she maintains that level of fitness. And the other thing, one thing that really helped me at this point when I started riding off-road and started focusing a lot more on track style riding, the one thing that you need the most help with is your core. And so Pilates is like a hacked version of yoga. I'm just going to refer to this. There's the US, the naval team has playlists on YouTube. They're called Fit for Duty. And there's major, his name is Payne, Jason Payne, Payne. Look them up. He has got some great Pilates sessions, just 20 minutes long. Each one is about 18 or 19 minutes. So you can literally do those in a hotel room, wherever you are. And 20 minutes is nothing.
It's nothing.
The day you have more time, the day I would have more time,
Just watch the video twice.
I would do 2 of them. There would be 2. He's got multiple. They've got multiple different Pilates sessions. Some is for different parts of the body. Beautiful, especially for motorcyclists. I found that to be a game changer for me back then.
Yeah.
This is a message from Bubble. This is from, it's not BUBBLE, it's BABBALGTS.
Oh, I know the comment.
I love this channel, he says. Thank you for that. As someone who's building a potential disruption in the EV space, I constantly have to battle with venture capitalists, fellow entrepreneurs, and a lot of riders. that one fuel, one silver bullet doesn't exist, and the future will be a coexistence of a lot of technologies, and people will decide what they need. Talking just about the two wheelers, it's a 300 billion US dollar market in India, which is going through energy transition. It's really fun and interesting to see like minded people talk about this transition. We don't know what the future holds. I may be in the 99 that fails, but that is the process. Meanwhile, all we need to do is chill.
Absolutely spot on. Spot on. Every time you're in a space that is emerging tech, it implies there'll be more failures than successes. What stable tech implies is more successes than failures. And what old tech implies is now 100% success rate because it is matured to a place where there's just no reason to innovate or fail, therefore. So, to me, today's EVs, we're going to see a lot of companies just completely summarily disappear, having created product and sold product and having customers out there who are going to be left in the lurch too. This is just how the playing field will work. This is what happened in the early 20s when motorcycles were a new thing. How many brands were there in Britain? 150? And then what were left? 4. And then 2. And then 1 was selling t-shirts until they just started making motorcycles again. Right? This is just how the playing field works. So what he's saying is spot on. And I think the only thing I want to add is there is a little bit of pain in that comment because our venture capitalist guys don't really understand that. In India, that more failures versus successes is the playing field for emerging tech is going to happen. We are not willing to fail. We've said this on our previous podcast. More people will fail than they will succeed in this game until the winners emerge. And honestly, it's not going to be like 75 new electric companies will emerge who will all be winners. It'll still be those 3, 4, 5, 8 people only. So I wish him best of luck. I hope whatever he's doing in terms of his disruption really works out for him. And I hope that he's not in the club that he's thinking he might be in.
I'm really curious as to what energy direction he's looking at. He's not mentioned that. That would be interesting because he is talking about diversification of energy sources as the need for the future.
I think if I were doing the disruption, I would basically put the coal-fired reactor, the coal-fired thermal plant in the vehicle itself. So I'm running on coal, but it is turning electricity. So technically, it's an EV. It's the grid shrunk to a vehicular format.
Superb. No transmission losses then. Nice. Okay, you want to take the next one?
Okay, so this is a question for both you and me. This is from SHRXNXDHX. I have no idea how to pronounce this.
Okay, then.
How many...
Sorry, please explain to us what that handle means when you get the time.
is the best that I can pronounce it as. So, you might want to have a couple of vowels in there, I'm just saying. Okay. How many bikes should an ideal garage have and what kind of bikes should you be looking at?
Ayo. Why do you have to have a number for something like this? With motorcycles, that's clear cut. It's about you, your engagement with the vehicle. And if, like, right now I have only 2 bikes in my garage, but I would like to have 3, 4. But I don't think I want 10, 20 bikes.
No, I have a number for the ideal garage. It's +1.
Correct. So for me, it's very clear. You have to have a connection. If that connection happens, it has to be lasting. I can't have transient connection wala motorcycles. That doesn't work for me.
Yeah, and sometimes you will end up with motorcycles that have transient connections and you're hoping to avoid that as much as possible if it is possible.
No, but that way we are very different, right? He, like we were talking about, I will abstain. He will say, no, I like this, I'll go for it. I will wait until I'm dead sure and then I'm like sorted.
Yeah, that's because the fundamental difference between you and me is...
Yeah, I know I'm Marwadi.
And since I am not, is not the issue here. The issue is that I don't take money as seriously as my time. Mm-hmm. So to me, can I wait 10 years to buy a dream bike? I'd rather have the bike now and then suffer the consequences of that financial decision than wait 10 years, be in a financially secure place and then try it. Because I don't know 10 years from now what's going to happen to me, right? So it's just my perspective. Ideal garage, to me, the size is +1. So whatever you have, plus space for 1 more. In my heart, there'll always be space for 1 more motorcycle to come into my garage. The only difference I make here is the distinction between a garage and a collection. A garage is full of machinery that is constantly being used. A collection is a room full of machinery that does not see much use anymore.
Oh, I can't do +1.
And I can't do collections. I'm very happy to do garages. If I'm looking at my current use pattern, I am at Three motorcycles, one of which is at the racetrack, so I see it 8-9 times a year. Two of them are in my house right now. I may have space for maybe two more before it starts to head towards a collection, and I don't want to be a collector.
Yeah, so for me, the plus one won't work because, like, when we started motoring, we were so tied up, and I got so fried to see the Busa stand there. And for me, that pain, and which is why, for me, the decision about not buying is not because of the money angle, is because if I don't like it, then it'll just stand there, and I won't have the heart to also just, I can't do that. Like, it's difficult for me to just say, Acha, bech do. Not because I bought it. I've invested in it emotionally. Then it becomes that much harder.
Sure.
So then the Busa was just standing there. It was hurting. So it was almost like, okay, isko bech do. It's better that somebody uses it.
Luckily, your wife has a very, very strong head on her shoulders. Thanks for that, Vanita.
I am grateful. Okay.
Sorry, second part, what kind of bike should you be looking at? Whatever makes you happy. I don't have a closed idea of a format. Like, I didn't know I was going to end up with an ADV and falling in love with it. Here I am. The 210, I rode it and I didn't know that I wanted 175 bhp street naked in my life. But hey, it really did work. I'm thinking that when I ride a dirt bike again, I remember riding a Supermoto formatted WR450 many ages ago. And I absolutely adored how it felt. So I'm not close to the idea of saying what kind of bike should I be looking at. I am just saying if it makes me really happy, I should aim towards getting one.
And we've spoken about this before. Intrinsically, who we are as riders, I should be the one with the off-road motorcycle,
Correct.
like, I mean, adventure bike, and he should be with the fared bike. But our primary motorcycles are the opposite. He has the multi, I have the Busa.
Yeah. And I have a ADV primarily as a travel bike and not an off-road bike because it just makes not having to worry about what lies ahead that much simpler. I have no intention of taking my Multistrada off-road. It's too big for this. I'd rather have a small dirt bike for that when I can and as and when I can. But the Multistrada just makes travel easier. It works.
Okay. Sahil Haqqani, he says, best advice I ever heard from my father. This is for the 20th episode. Learn to ride smooth enough that it's not just you who doesn't hit anybody, but also that nobody can hit you or has to take evasive action to avoid hitting you.
Yeah, there is a anecdote about Steve McQueen, I think, which I remember, which stuck in my head, where I think Steve was in his Porsche 911 of some sort.
Just have the speedster.
And he's parked at a traffic light. And this is described by a driver who's approaching this traffic light. And something happened to this approaching car. I don't know, the brakes failed or something. There was a mechanical issue of some sort. And Steve was situationally aware enough to do something spectacular. I'm trying to remember it was a turn of some sort or whatever. But he basically moved the Porsche out of the way so that this other person wouldn't hit anybody and had space to come to a halt. And the idea that I enjoy about that anecdote is that Steve McQueen is regarded as a very skilled driver and rider. And the skill that he showed that day was he was situationally aware of where he was at. And everybody assumes that because you're standing at a traffic light, you're out of options. Are you though?
There is some content in digital world. You have access to this. Go to YouTube, search up Johan Zarco's YouTube channel.
Yeah.
There is a phenomenal clip. Post one of the races, him and a friend of his, or somebody from the team, they're traveling. They're in a car, and Zarco's driving. They're about to be rear-ended. They're just chilling and having a conversation, and the next second, Zarco's moved at lightning speed. You can just see him burst into action, and he's moved the car out. There's somebody coming from behind, out of control, and immediately, like, he just moved out of the way.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was Zarco driving, but I've seen this clip. And it's insane how quickly the reactions are.
Unbelievable.
This is the clip where at the end he tells his friend saying, no, we were about to be rear-ended.
Correct.
That's it.
Incredible. So you can find it on YouTube. And that's situational awareness to get out of trouble. We overlook it quite often.
Here's a good one for you from Satyen Das.
Okay.
Life as an automotive journalist, can I do it side by side with my regular job? We have a lot of these questions. He's not the only person who's asked this.
No.
You can't do it. Come on, a side hustle. I'm sure automotive journalism can be a side hustle.
I don't know what two things you can do well together if you want to do anything well. That's...
I know. You can sit on the pot and read a book, and you can do both really well.
Okay, fine.
And also, that's not a side hustle as much as a real hustle if you think about it.
Gee.
Okay. To me, the idea of the side hustle is a problem. It presumes that you have the mental and physical latitude to be able to do multiple jobs in parallel. From the European and American side of things, where 9 to 5 means 9 to 5 and Saturday is off and Sunday is off, I can still imagine that a hardworking, driven individual would have the time to be able to do a side hustle and make a good go of it. Culturally, they're also the environment where 12, 13, 14-year-olds take side jobs during their college and school, and they work and earn money. And this is normal for them. So think about it. The average student in the United States is aware of or is participating in a side hustle that allows them to earn a little bit of money. This is why a lot of American teenage fiction has people working in cafes, working in places, and earning money on the side. Okay? This is not how we work as a society, though. When you go to college, especially school board years, tell me which of your parents will let you have a side hustle at all. This is a very, very Instagram adoption fad trend thing. First, we don't have the time for it. Okay? When you go to the US, your work day starts on Monday at 9. Your Monday ends at 5:30 on Monday. And then you do whatever you want the rest of the evening. Right? This carries on till Friday evening at 5:30 or 5, whatever. Saturday, no work. Sunday, no work. And you have nothing to do till Monday 9:30 as your primary job. That's a lot of time to do something else with. Right? We don't do this as a culture. So where will you do this side hustle in the normal scheme of how things work here? That's part one. Part two is competence. I'm telling you that just spending time behind the wheel and behind the handlebar takes so much time for you to be able to say, I am executing these things and that's making the vehicle behave like this, and therefore this is what the road test needs to look like. Just that takes so much time. There's no question of it being a side hustle. If nobody's paying you to spend that time behind the steering wheel or the handlebar, you're not going to be very good at it. So, can I imagine this being a side hustle at all? No. And third, and the most important, it's going to make everything else that you look so dull that if you're any even half good at it, you'll have to become a full-time automotive journalist.
Side hustle part of it just throws me off, because side hustle, I usually think of it, a side hustle is something that you are kind of emotionally detached from, and you're doing it for some kind of a financial gain.
Yeah.
So it's a convenience thing more than anything. In which
Reviewing depreciating assets as a side hustle just sounds like
and
oxymoron.
there are lots of other questions about this as a career, etc. Right? This is not going to be your alternative to working in banking or finance.
No.
This is not that. You're doing it for the satisfaction of what you do. And sadly, the reason why there are so few people who are doing this is because this is time consuming, and it takes a lot of time to get to know the vehicles. And it's not just the vehicle that you're driving right now. You have to know everything else around it
Correct.
to make sense of it.
Yeah.
So side hustle,
No, it's too complicated a job. And honestly, it's too much fun. I don't know why you wouldn't want to do it as a primary at all.
This comment is from Jeru on the road.
Regular he is. Hi, Jeru.
If this helps anyone, I remembered reading some research about what makes a good driver. Interestingly, the key factor wasn't just the number of crashes one has, but a mindset. Hundreds of drivers were surveyed, and many experienced drivers highlighted the importance of constantly asking, what if? This mental habit keeps you alert and prepared. Imagine, what if I overtake now? What if I don't use my indicator? Or what if the car behind me tries to pass? By anticipating potential situations, your brain can formulate solutions and react faster, leading to safer driving. This what if approach is a valuable reminder, and I wanted to share it here. Thank you for all the informative content. It's a free daily masterclass. Thank you. Superb.
Spot on.
Too good.
Spot on. And if you think about what's wrong with our Indian licensing system, and there are comments on that too, is basically this. We are teaching you the physical actions that are required to operate a vehicle, but we're not doing enough to teach your brain as to what is required to actually drive well. And driving well, riding well is not about I know where the clutch is and I know what the clutch does. It's about what decision will you make next and what implications that has on what happens next. right? So he's spot on about the mindset. If you can get your mindset right, you'll drive well. And if you get the mindset wrong, it doesn't matter if you're physically exactly like Michael Schumacher or Valentino Rossi, you will drive badly.
In past episodes, we've spoken about this constantly. Like, when you're going for an overtake and you just roll off or lift off for half a second, it's the same thing as the physical uh, manifestation of this thought. What if? Can I just take a moment more to evaluate this? Just give yourself a little bit more time. Fantastic.
Yep.
Super.
This is from Pratik Jain, MNNIT. Pratik Jain NIT.
All right.
When to stop dreaming?
Oh, yo. Why such questions?
I think it's a great one to round up this episode.
When do you stop dreaming?
When do you stop dreaming, Karthik?
Ooh.
Like my knee-jerk reaction is when I wake up.
That's when most of the dreams happen, man, when you're awake. Hopefully never.
You can't. I don't think you can stop dreaming. I don't know that you'd be human if you were to stop dreaming. Right? It's the paradox of being human, right? You're always looking for comfort. And then you actively refuse to become comfortable with it. Right? And then you ask for something more. And then you struggle, and you find this new comfort. And then you're like, no, I want more. And then you go back to the same thing, right? Like, it just in salary terms, right? When my first salary was what? 4,500 rupees. Was I not comfortable with 4,500 rupees? I was. But I wanted 6,000 rupees so that I could get my bike. Right? When I got 6,000 rupees, I was like, I have a motorcycle. I have a job that I enjoy. I live at home and I have no expenses. Was I comfortable with this? No, I wanted more because I'd want to ride the motorcycle more. And then I got a job and that 6 became 11. I doubled my salary effectively, right? Huge deal. So I bought a second motorcycle. And then I needed more money to have both the motorcycle. And it's been like this. And we are, what, 26 years on the other side? And I'm not comfortable where I am. I'm happy where I've reached. But the dreams are still... And I think the day that stops is the day I stop breathing. And I can't imagine it any other way. Can you?
I can... Shumi's given you about motorcycles, and I can tell you as much as we talk about motorcycles, what we are always talking about, and this is what MotorInc is about. It's about movement. And movement doesn't have to be on wheels. It's the sensation of movement that will spark something inside. It will keep you going. And so even without vehicles, you can think about being smoother, being better, being more in tune with yourself, with the world around you. And all these things are small dreams. It's not always about the big dreams. Like I'm constantly looking at calisthenics videos and looking at people doing the planche and all of that. I'm thinking, one day I want to do that. So it doesn't have to be narrowed down into some specific thing about owning a car or a bike or something. It has to be something that you want to chase. It's something that comes to you naturally.
And it could be a whole bunch of things simultaneously too.
And it's just... I don't know, movement is such a beautiful thing that way. You think of it...
Yeah, and I don't think we were designed to be in one place at all. We just weren't. Think about all the people you know, and I know you know people in your circles who are like this. Who are the people you classify as lazy or not driven? You have these people. We all know these people. Tell me that you look up to these people ever. Right? I can't. My father can't, my mother can't, my sister can't. Everybody in my family cannot imagine how people like those live because they can't see the perceived movement of their lives.
Having a dream is about moving from where you are to somewhere you want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And that, hopefully, even in the smallest way, you should have it. I mean, there should never be a time when you say that there's nothing that I want to do.
And that does imply fundamentally a sense of constant discomfort. And I think we were genetically designed for that.
Doesn't have to be discontent. That is a...
Not discontent, discomfort.
Yeah.
Discomfort is, I am not happy where I am, I need to get to a better place. And that's movement. That's the movement he's talking about. And that happens at micro level, which is, can I do a planche? And it happens at macro level, saying, dude, I need to be 30 times richer so that I can have that car and that bike and that house or whatever it is. Whatever it is, it forces you to be uncomfortable today and hope for comfort tomorrow. And honestly, You never get comfortable. It's just cannot be done.
This loops back to the challenge. You always want something. That's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little
you
bit
discover
harder.
something new. You will always discover something new. You know, at the most crass level, it's like the Amazon shopping cart. It just cannot get to zero. It can't. You can fill it and refill it and delete it and whatever, but you know, at the end, there'll be one thing left in that cart always.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll end on one comment.
Okay.
It's open in front of me and it's very cute.
Hmm.
This is from Super Valkyrie. There are two variations of ABC that I try to be mindful of at all times. Always be cautious. Be cautious of yourself. Be cautious of others. And the second one is always be caring. Arguably the more important thought. Be considerate, be patient, be kind. Remember that we all have friends, partners, jobs, EMIs, rent, dreams, and more. And we're all just trying to go from point A to point B. What a lovely one.
Correct.
Be it on the road or through life. Thank you for attending my TED Talk.
When's the next one?
Thanks so much, man. And
Because if all TED Talks were this kind of short, I'm like, game, let's do this every day.
this also answers the question that people have asked about how do you stay sane in crazy traffic. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, sorted. So we went through how many?
26 questions.
So we went through 26 questions and there are another
89 total.
Okay then. Maybe part 2, huh?
Hey, don't even start.
No part 2.
This is the end of the season. Members, maybe it's not the end of the season for you guys.
Pretty please.
No. If you're a member, I think there are additional episodes coming.
Will I get to watch them?
Yeah.
How?
You're part of the creation team, sir. Nobody can stop you from
Sir, I have
watching.
no subscription. It's too
You
expensive.
don't need, sir. We'll give it to you on the computer outside. No problem, sir. But more seriously, we keep these seasons at 20 episodes. This is episode number 20. So officially, season 2 is over. If you have taken a membership with MotorInc, though, you will get to see additional content. I think it will be the all access tier only. But there are other solutions we are working on. And I know I've hinted it so much that people have started hinting back at us. But we are working on other solutions where it might be simpler and this all access kind of complicated subscription thing that we're currently having to do because of YouTube structure will not apply. But we'll figure this part out together and we'll see how it goes. So if you're watching MotorInc, thank you so much. If you're a member of MotorInc, there may be more episodes of ThisConnect waiting for you. I think now we should sign out.
Enough teasing.
Enough.
3, 2, 1. ThisConnect.
Goodbye from season 2. See you in season 3.